So, you know, one of the things that I hear people saying, I was just out talking to somebody in the hallway this afternoon, and they said it to me, and I've been saying it to a lot of different people as well. A lot of the things that we talk about doing to improve cities are up against a strong headwind. And that headwind is that a lot of people don't have jobs. And it's hard to improve education, it's hard to improve communities if people aren't making money. So that's why this panel is so important. We want to talk about what kinds of business models will lead to entry-level jobs, more entry-level jobs, so that we can solve this problem from an economic standpoint. And so we couldn't possibly have a better host for this panel, moderator for this panel, than Malinda Jensen. Malinda is the Vice President for Economic Development at Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, and she's been involved in a lot of the initiatives to bring more jobs to the city of Detroit. And she has a distinguished panel of speakers who I will let her introduce to you. So Malinda, without further ado.
My work is primarily with our business development unit, so I work with a lot of businesses that are looking to grow in the city of Detroit or possibly make an investment in the city. And the number one question when business owners are looking at places for site location is what's the talent pool? They're very concerned that if they're going to expand, if you don't have ready talent available, well then what type of training programs are in place? So this topic is very near and dear to me. I also served on the city's workforce development department on the board, and I noticed that while the city of Detroit is getting all these new businesses downtown, there's all these young professionals that are coming into work and fill these jobs, there's always that thought about what's happening to the people that are in the community that may not have graduated from high school, may have issues, with returning citizen, status, may not have a driver's license, and our organization is charged with providing opportunities for both. So it's always a balancing act to make sure that we are doing everything we can to increase the tax base, as well as giving Detroiters every opportunity, not to only get a job, but be in a position where they can make a wage to support their family. So our panel today is really comprised of a variety of different businesses that are tackling the problem of either figuring out ways to create opportunities for entry-level positions for urban workers, or they have taken the time to really think about this is a problem in the city, or it really could be in any urban American city, saying what kind of business can I create that can really solve a systemic problem that may be an obvious barrier to workforce. So I'm going to have each person just introduce themselves and talk a few minutes about their business model or their program, and then we'll get into the more in-depth conversation. Thank you.
I'm Reimer. I've been involved in entrepreneurship and economic development in the city of Detroit and beyond for probably 50 years plus. Some of you know me. I see some familiar faces in the audience. This is a subject in which I've spent a lot of time at, actually creating many, many businesses, and the question becomes, from a historical perspective, we've learned a lot from the past. We do not want to live there, but we've learned a lot from the past. And when we learn from the past where we can go in the future, the timing couldn't be better to create a venture in urban America. Opportunity is all over the place. Unfortunately, some of us do not connect the dots, and others of us do. Connecting the dots is what it's all about. There are pain causers and there are pain relievers. The pain relievers are where the opportunities are. And you can see them in many instances as you look around the city. Many years ago, we used to build manufactured homes in the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. In the mid-'80s, we changed. We changed our workers' comp laws. Many of those jobs went to Indiana and to Canada. We're now importing homes. We're now importing home components from other states and other countries. The opportunity is clearly there. A sustainable model using carpentry, using skilled labor, but much is being done through digital fabrication. That continues to be an excellent opportunity in the future. But however, some training is needed. Some vision is needed. In addition to that, I see the city destroying, in the past we've destroyed many buildings that have been just discarded. We're sitting in an example of an unbelievable structure, and look what's been done. Look at the number of jobs that were created in the refurbishing of this beautiful building, Argonaut Realty. Unbelievable structure. I think the reality is connecting the dots. As I watch the news and I see all the tires discarded, that's all I see is opportunity. Others may see waste. I see opportunity. Again, continually scanning the external environment, looking for those opportunities, and doing something about it. Entry-level jobs are there. However, more and more education is required as we continue to work. But again, this is a digital world, and opportunities are abounding. Many, many opportunities in biomedical, in the biomedical field and in the medical field, continues to grow. I look forward to participating in this panel. I want to thank the Urban Entrepreneurship Symposium for inviting me here, and look forward to answering your questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Hickman. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Urban Ashes. We are a manufacturer of picture frames and furniture out of urban salvage wood, street trees, yard trees, storm damaged trees, and wood coming out of houses and buildings being deconstructed in the Detroit metro area. That's kind of a quick, short story. To expand a little bit on what Don said, we started in 2000, it kind of goes back to 2005. I helped start an organization called the Urban Wood Project, which was specifically created when the emerald ash borer was at its peak here in southeast Michigan, and it was to utilize that wood that was almost entirely being destroyed via mulch or being burned. We put together a network of mills, and this was sort of a mother, necessity.
Where's the pain?
What's that?
You relieve the pain.
Correct, as much as we could. Not all of it, unfortunately. But needless to say, we were able to put together a network of mills that was able to utilize a lot of that lumber, make it available to the public. The sales were doubling every year. By 2009, myself and one of the other guys got back together and said we need to come up with a product that is scalable, that we can take nationwide or international to really dig into the number of urban salvage trees and deconstructed buildings that are being wasted. In Michigan alone, there's estimated about 75 million board feet of urban salvage lumber that's destroyed in a matter of seconds as mulch and firewood. That's a lot of wasted jobs. It takes seconds to destroy it. To turn it into a viable product is a whole other thing. One of the other things that we really focused on from the very beginning was we wanted to work with people who had barriers to employment, and that was ex-felons as well as disabled labor. And pretty quickly we started focusing on ex-felons because we felt that was some of the most disadvantaged labor force there is out there. And with that, I'm actually going to let Calvin here next to me, who's our human resources manager and operations manager, tell you a little bit of his story and how entry-level position can lead to not just an entry-level job on a factory floor, but there's actually room for growth and that's a critical thing. And this is specifically in regard to the ex-felon labor pool.
Hello, I'm Calvin Evans. As he just indicated, I'm the HR operations manager for Urban Ashes. Like 2.5 years ago, I was released from prison. I did 24 years in prison. Though we are an Ann Arbor-based company, I am from Detroit. I decided to go to Ann Arbor because prior to my being released, they said Ann Arbor had the best reentry program in the state of Michigan, and I wanted the best possible chance in order to make the transition from prison to society. Obviously, now I got that. I'm on the Washtenaw County Workforce Development Board, and I just signed on with Wayne State to become a violent intervention specialist. So my idea when leaving prison was, how do I help individuals who are coming from out of prison be more effective? How do they get the resources that I was unable to get? And linking up with Paul through Michigan Prisoner Reentry Program allowed me the opportunity to do that. He wanted to work with the ex-felon labor force, and he wanted to use the product where he can train. Not only does he train, but he employ, and he pay us a scalable wage for our work. Now, with that, I knew that there had to be some mentoring, because anytime that you have been in prison, despite what anybody may say, there's some psychological damage that is done. And we are unfamiliar with the workforce, so our program actually is to help individuals become released, get released, train them, employ them, and then mentor them. We collaborate with impact organizations or social organizations or C3s, whatever name you want to give them. They provide some federal, state, local funding in order to help us do the training. We connected with one impact organization, and they said that they had room for 26 people. We couldn't hire 26 people, so what I begin to believe is that if I can connect other business with our model, that will give more individuals an opportunity. And so what I utilize is that we want to help employee retention. How do you keep a person that is incarcerated employed? How do we take this criminal stigma away from them? And so, in striving and continue to strive to be the face of that, what it is that we're doing is having a mentoring program where it's peer-to-peer. People who are doing good things after incarceration, helping people that are looking to reintegrate themselves into society do the same as well. Urban Ashes is the catalyst for my ability to do that, at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin.
Good afternoon. My name is I can't compete with that story. There's no way. You should have went last. My name is Heath Carr. I'm with Bedrock Manufacturing. I'm a partner in a private equity firm, and we are the group that started Shinola here in Detroit. So thank you for having me today. Thank you for listening to what all of us have to say on the panel. Just 4 short years ago, the idea of Shinola was born in Dallas, and we were sitting in Dallas with the idea that we wanted to make watches in the United States. It was a long-time dream of ours to do that. And we wanted to do something that was meaningful, and specifically we wanted to do something that was in the field of creating jobs. And today those jobs are not only manufacturing, but also office and administrative. On about that time, we came to Detroit, visited the city. None of us that had this idea had ever spent much time in Detroit or had thought about manufacturing in Detroit. But as we sat in Dallas and we talked about the idea of manufacturing, all of us wrote down on a piece of paper, what are all the cities in the United States that are synonymous with manufacturing? Detroit was at the top of everyone's list, so we came to visit Detroit. Our last stop on our tour of Detroit was actually this building. We came to this building, and for whatever reason, which is still we can't explain today, the elevator stopped on the 5th floor of this building. And we don't know why, because none of us pushed that button, but we looked out, we saw the floor that looks very similar to the floor that we're on today, and said, what's the plans with this? And the College for Creative Studies said, well, we haven't quite figured it out yet. And we said, would you mind if we built a watch factory? And not knowing exactly what that meant, they said yes. So we went about building the watch factory in Detroit, and as we told our story, what we wanted to accomplish, everyone we met in Detroit, it wasn't a why, it was why not? Why not do this in Detroit? So we built the factory in Detroit. A few short years later, the business became something that was way better than we had ever expected. And most of us in the Dallas office ended up moving here. I recently transplanted this past summer. So if anyone has any tips on how to survive a winter in Detroit, I may need
Dallas.
I may need that. So we set up the watch factory. Shortly after that, we set up a leather factory where we make the leather straps for the watches, actually here today. Today we have 461 employees at the company, and I want to read this so I get 357 of those are based in Detroit, and 238 of those are manufacturing jobs in this building on the 5th floor. So we're proud to be here. We're proud to help create jobs. It's not an easy thing. There are certainly the challenges, but it certainly is rewarding at the end of the day. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. My name is Jim Robinson, and I've been in this workforce space for a number of years, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, so it's not by accident that the opportunity to create a business around a major issue in the city led to the folks that I work with. And so we have sister entities, which spawned actually what I'm here to talk about, which is Metro Easy Ride. And we have a Detroit Talent Development Center, which is a partnership with labor, employers, and for a number of years we've created opportunities for individuals to move into skilled and unskilled positions through that entity. But we ran upon a major problem, and that is getting individuals to training, to complete training in order to work, simple as that. So now we find ourselves at the intersection of jobs, transportation, and Detroit's economy. And while we are addressing part of it on the talent side, we've determined that we've got to fix the problem of getting people to and from work. On any given day in Detroit, there's probably 20,000 to 40,000 individuals who either would get a job or would keep a job if they could get to work. So on one hand, you have workers who have a problem with reliable transportation at the times they need it to get to work when they need to be there. On the other hand, you have a problem for employers who need reliable workers to show up when they're supposed to show up. And in the middle is this gap. And we created Metro Easy Ride about 20 years ago as a public service, if you will, in partnership with regional malls. And what we did was to partner with the faith community. We used probably about 15 or 20 vehicles that churches made available. We basically rented them from the churches, and we provided transportation from mall to mall to mall because our primary emphasis at that time was retail. So we did it as a social venture without thinking about sustainability. And 15 years later, we were asked to put together a plan to address the current transportation challenge. And Metro Easy Ride currently provides 24/7 transportation. We service Detroit. We are launching in Saginaw, in Flint, Pontiac, Western Michigan through partnerships. Everything we do through creating partnerships at the local level. So in Detroit, for example, we partner with a number of faith organizations, workforce organizations that have vehicles that are sitting. So we're kind of the Uber of shared ride, if you will. We try to tap that capacity, and we add some logistics, and we hire drivers, and we hire individuals to work with employers. And as a result of that, we are moving now about 250 people to work a day. And as soon as it gets cold, that number is going to double. And probably by January, we're planning on transporting somewhere in the neighborhood of about 600 to 800 individuals a day to and from work. Logistics plays a big part in that because we in this area have many, many opportunities for people to work, but the work schedule is as sporadic as where people work. We have as many people who live in the city and work outside the city. In fact, twice as many residents work outside the city than those who live in the city and work in the city. So we all know that this is a major challenge. And I'll just simply add a couple of points about what we're doing and then spend a little bit more time later on. But we stay in our lane. And our lane is taking individuals to work and taking them to training for completion. We're not a public transportation, but we're a gap service. So consequently, if we can connect individuals to efficient public service or public transportation, then we do that. We either pick them up on the front end or the back end, or if we need to take them from point A to point B, we travel from here as far as to the Ann Arbor area. We take individuals on trips if they need to get to labor unions for training or for testing. And on a daily basis, we provide scheduled ride service for a substantial number of people, growing number of people who need that ride to work. So we're happy to be in this space and look forward to sharing more information with you about Metro Easy Ride as we go forward.
Okay, thanks everyone for giving an update on your business and how you're contributing to solving the problem of either creating more opportunities for entry-level workforce positions, not only in the city of Detroit or in southeastern Michigan, and also talking about creating a business that relieves the pain. So I really like Don for giving that example. I could listen to this topic all day long. I mean, being able to have this opportunity to talk and hear about just the variety of different types of businesses and the decision makers that really care about making an impact in this community is why I do my job. So thank you just sincerely for what you do. We can open up for any questions. I believe there's going to be 2 people walking around, so if you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get started.
There is a fair. One thing that we have instilled in individuals that we work with, there's no such thing as a free lunch, there's no such thing as a free ride. So our fares range from $2.50 a day up to $15 a day. Most of the fares for the individuals are in the neighborhood of about $5 a day. But what makes us effective, and the revenue model is based upon our partnerships with the workforce community. So for example, we probably transport 50% of our workers might be through the community ventures program that most of you all have hired individuals. We may have transported individuals for any of the workforce partners, DESC or other partners. So a lot of individuals have transportation supports, but the challenge in accessing that is typically there's no way to do it on a scale big enough to support mass numbers. So we're cashless. We make arrangements in the beginning to provide scheduled rides so that individuals are guaranteed they're going to get on the vehicle. And we negotiate our fares based upon the partnerships and the employers that we work with. And by the way, we will create probably 50 jobs by spring, from driving to logistics and employer navigating.
And I'm going to ask the professor.
Well, having recently returned from a trip to Dubai and seen the activities in Dubai, which was like downtown Miami, it was kind of very, very interesting. I've been doing quite a bit of international travel, and most of the time I've been spending is on opportunity recognition and engaging the customer. Often we never talk to the customer, but I think an interesting situation in terms of painstorming, there was a man whose wife was extremely arthritic, and he thought about, watched her try to peel a potato. As he watched her peel the potato, what did he find? He found, looking at her, there was an opportunity because he wanted to relieve the pain. Hence, OXO products were born. This is another example of painstorm. If you want to go back in history, what happened? What happened when all of a sudden we start dragging our luggage around and there were no wheels on the luggage? What happened when the wheels and the luggage got together? Another opportunity. Where was the pain? Where was the gain? We must continue to connect the dots. The opportunities are right in front of you. I could go on and on. My time certainly is limited. But I think that in terms of international opportunity, the world is truly flat. Pushing a button on a simple machine that you have there brings you to any place you want to in the world. So businesses that are very small, the playing field is much easier there for people to export. I'm sure that Shinola is looking for opportunities abroad, and maybe they're already in that space, but probably every bit of their production is already consumed. So I think that looking for opportunities abroad is much easier both ways. Companies that are looking to do that are abroad, they're looking to do business with U.S., and we have many governmental agencies that will connect people with international opportunities.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I had something a little bit to add to that, which I failed to leave some of our metrics out. We are now in over 200 locations in 42 states, and that's really in the last 3 years. And so talking about the local aspect of startups, We've been able to expand across the country, even though our manufacturing is still here in Southeast Michigan. However, our model, the intent from the very beginning, was it to become a regional model that could be reproduced in a variety of different locations around the country, because the situations that created urban ashes, the urban salvage wood, and the ex-felon labor pool is definitely not unique to Southeast Michigan. So they're scalable, and that's what ours was definitely built upon, and we've already started it with our growth in the last 3 years.
Can I add to that?
Oh, go ahead, Calvin.
And there's a national initiative, it's a bipartisan approach to cut the prison population in half within the next 10 years. So with that in mind, even if that model has already worked, so we're trying to say to businesses that if we all come together and link one another with these social or impact organizations and transportation services, what it is that we can do is provide meaningful services across the country, and not just, in our little area, in our little niche. We're trying to do it, we're creating scalable modules here, just like with Easy Ride. It's a scalable module. Every one of us have a business that is a scalable module.
Right, that could be applied in any urban American cities.
Exactly.
I'll add one thing, and you're absolutely right. The thing is this: whether you're producing a product or delivering a service, if you don't deliver it and it's not appreciated and you don't fulfill, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So we cut our teeth on initially one ride a day until we were able to make sure that we were delivering that person to that destination with 100% or 99% on-time performance, and then work that model to be able to replicate it, as you pointed out, Calvin, in other communities. So no matter how big you want to be, it starts with paying attention to what you're doing at the local level and making sure that you're doing that correct.
Okay, so in other words, when you think about, I was just looking at the survey question up here where they're talking about what's the #1 issue with starting a business, and it's fear of failure. One way to mitigate that fear is to start small, course correct as needed, reach out to mentors. There's a lot of business owners that are willing to help out. So I think what you all described have addressed, you were able to address this particular survey question. And there was another question. Can you put the other question back up on the screen?
I mean, I'll add real quick, you can't give up. I mean, the bottom line is you have to believe in yourself when no one else does, because I don't think any of us has an easy story, and you don't know the story behind the story. And ours is not much different from anybody out there, but you cannot, you can't let fear or other factors enter into the equation. You've just got to get on track, stay on course, and do what you have to do to make it. These events, mentoring and talking to people, absolutely critical. They reinforce what you think, they help you build your confidence, but you need a plan, a game plan.
Don, you want to add?
I really recommend an instrument that validates your idea, some type of value, and always look at yourself as creating value. When you fail to create value, basically you're going to have a situation that doesn't go anyplace. So value creation is important, and of course use an instrument like business model canvas or business model generation, so that you really understand your customer segments. Always engage the customer, and of course listen to the customer. See, these are things. The fear, I mean, it's kind of a statement. You have nothing to fear but fear itself. I mean, fear can consume you. In my journey, my fear was working for somebody else. In owning my own business for 45 years, I woke up every morning unemployed, and I love it. Understand that basically, if you want security in your life, then you've got to control your own destiny. If you let somebody else control that destiny for you, that's the fear, because you never know from one day to another day whether or not what you call your job is really not yours. You do not own it, you've never owned it, you cannot sell it, you have no control over it, it's not yours. It's a sacrifice you make, for your family, and you need to develop an exit strategy, and some of them can be very exciting. I was very, very pleased with this young man's comment. Opportunities now in prison systems, marketing opportunities in both private jails and prison systems are unbelievable. And I can tell you, I've got an opportunity for somebody who wants to market to prison system, and here's a man that knows all about it. He can tell you more about prisons, what goes on inside the prisons and the mind, than most of us can. At least knows a lot more than I do. And I'd love to tap his mind to listen to him talk about this strategy, because it's there. You just have to connect the dots.
Thank you.
I wanted to make a quick comment about that, specifically this, about added value, which again, Don said, you keep giving me these good leads, thanks. At the beginning when I started Urban Ashes, I went for advice from a longtime friend who had a frame shop, and I went to him and said I wanted to make frames out of urban salvage wood. And he walked over and picked up a specific frame and said, this frame outsells every other frame 10 to 1. If you can reproduce this and come close to its price point, you'll do well. So that was the first thing I did. That frame, I made about 4 of them. Those 4 frames basically sit in our museum now. They never went anywhere. What they were is looked like every other frame that was coming out of, predominantly, for those who know the framing industry, most of the overseas frames are coming out of Taiwan, some out of China. But it looked just like them. That's not what we were, and I was totally ignoring what we were. I was hiding the wood for what it was, so I had to go backwards and really embrace what the wood was, and now, as he said, the added value. The added value really was the story behind the wood. The LOHAS, for those of you who don't know what the LOHAS community is, which is a lifestyle and health and sustainability, I believe is what it stands for, and the aspirational is the largest growing purchasing market in the world. If you don't know who they are and you plan on selling a product or a service, you better find out who they are, because they make a huge impact and they really know what they care about.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a question. This one is particularly to Heath with Shinola. When Shinola made the investment in Detroit, it was transformational. And coming in and assembling the watches here, that could have been done in China. And they intentionally made a decision to not only make the investment in Detroit, but also to hire local. And as you said, that was a few years ago. And Heath, if you can just explain how you were able to recruit the staff, because I mean, you have to be able to manage holding little tiny parts, and quality is a requirement. That's why my Shinola watch is still working well. Can you explain that process? And if you have staff turnover, how do you recruit additional staff? And do you offer any type of wraparound services for your employees?
So recruiting is something we work on every day. Business, fortunately for us, is growing, and we're always behind on our manufacturing, which I'll take that every day. But the interesting thing is we looked at Detroit. We knew we wanted to make watches in the United States. One, it would be a differentiator in the marketplace, because to the volume that we're doing it, there isn't anyone else. So it's a differentiator. We can say that this watch is made in the United States at a level that no other watch is. So one, it's a competitive advantage. Two, coming to Detroit, we knew there wasn't a experienced watchmaking workforce anywhere in the United States. So no matter where we went, we would have to train those people. But what we were looking for was people that had some experience in some level of manufacturing. So that exists here today. So we were borrowing people from the auto industry and other industries here. But to the point of the small components, we knew we would have an uphill climb. So we brought trainers in from all over the world to train the folks that live here in Detroit how to do this. Today we partner with some recruiting services where when folks come in the door, they're considered a temp, so they're not on our payroll yet until they go through some of the training, so they can figure out whether it's something they want to do or not. This job, to your point, is not for everyone. We have an incredible factory. It's an incredible environment. So we focus on making sure that it is one of the best manufacturing facilities in the city, if not in the world, to work. So that helps us with our retention. But the process of going through some of the training is via the status as a temp, and then once they get hired on full-time, they immediately receive a raise. So for the first 90 days, they're on the temp payroll, and then they come onto our payroll. It works, I believe, for both of us. For the employee, one, they can decide if it's something they want to do, and two, it gives us the time to figure out if they're going to be able to go through that training. Then we spent a lot of time talking about, this is what we want to give these people. We want to give them this. And then we started to say, why don't we ask them what they want? Instead of us deciding this is going to make us the greatest manufacturer in the world. We had a lot of what we believed were great ideas, but we sat down with the employees and said, what do you guys want? And what they wanted was much more simple than what we were thinking they actually wanted from us. And we learned a lesson, which is it's all about talking to the customer, but also talk to your employees and ask them what they want. Because what's meaningful for them was actually, again, very simple. It was a ride to work. I could be here more. I'd work more hours if I had a way to get to work to and from at different hours. I'd actually work harder for you if I had that. They wanted a company picnic. That meant a lot because they wanted to feel like they were part of the community, part of the family, part of this company we created. We had a huge picnic out on Belle Isle this summer, and we're going to do it again. We're going to have one at Christmas time. We're going to have 2 a year. So it shows a simple investment in them. So we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money talking to the team and asking them what they want, because it's about them. It's not about us. I think it's a very valuable lesson, and I think sometimes we take our employees for granted, and not in a negative way. We just kind of overlook that there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I've worked with high schools as well, and many of you are acquainted with Focus Hope and the excellent work that Focus Hope has done in this community. And many years ago, we provided through the National Science Foundation something called the Greenfield Coalition, and we focused on what was called back then the Agile Technician. And the technician, the role of the technician in what we call 2-year or associate degrees in technology, or helping people better understand how to support the engineering discipline. And the technician is an extremely valuable person who really is engaged in hands-on interactive experiences and really knows how to build stuff. Sometimes we forget how to build stuff, how to make stuff. And that stuff makes money. Dirt makes money. So you can't ignore individuals with that kind of talent. You can identify. For years in school systems, we've depressed and medicated the entrepreneurial spirit in this country. It's sad. Ritalin, whatever it might be. The sadness is the jewels are in our own backyard. And you know something? We ignore them. We don't nurture them. We spend more time throwing a ball around a field than we do in recognizing that entrepreneurial spirit that is alive and well in this country. We need to do something about that. And as an educator, you need to do that. This child certainly has a short-term attention span, but by golly, that child can make something from nothing and is constantly discovering and building stuff. And that relates to manufacturing. That relates to industrial engineering. And that relates to, in a sense, what is called by Daniel Pink, right-directed thinking, a whole new mind. And the students you're talking about have a whole new mind. We need both, right and left-directed thinking. So that's my comment on what we need to do.
Thank you, and on that note, I want to thank the panelists for their time today and sharing information about the businesses and just giving some practical advice on what, as new business owners, I'm already claiming that, for those who are looking to start a business. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much.
Typically, that next level of financing comes in the form of where Doug would play with an angel or micro VC round. And maybe, Doug, you can just jump in and talk a little bit about those terms.